Hey guys, I'm Michelle Lee. I'm the Conservation Coordinator with the Nature Conservancy out of the Southeast Coastal Plain. And here in the Southeast Coastal Plain, we focus on land management and longleaf pine restoration. You can see we're here in a beautiful longleaf pine savanna. This is very typical of what you would see across the Southeast. And what we focus on is longleaf pine restoration through controlled burning. Controlled burning is a really important tool that we use to restore the landscape back to its natural fire regime. Fire helps the longleaf pine forest open up the canopy, so really cool plants like the Venus flytrap gets enough sunlight to thrive. Here in this savanna, we are standing in a field of Venus flytraps, bladderworts, pitcher plants, tons of carnivorous plants. And we're going to talk a little bit today about carnivorous plants and pollinators and how those two interact. Carnivorous plants are really unique because they grow in nutrient-poor soils. So you guys might be wondering, what kind of plants grow in nutrient-poor soils? How do they get all of their nutrients and energy? Carnivorous plants do photosynthesize, but they get a majority of their nutrients from insects. Here in the Southeast Coastal Plain, our carnivorous plants focus on eating small insects such as beetles, ants, sometimes spiders. You guys might be wondering, well, how do they pollinate? These carnivorous plants do put out flowers, but how do they avoid eating their pollinators? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the variety of carnivorous plants we have and their pollinating techniques that avoid capturing their pollinators as prey. So carnivorous plants are very small. A lot of them are low laying to the ground, and they put out these very tall flowers and blooms in late April to early June, depending on the carnivorous plant. And because of the spatial difference of the flowers to the trap, that avoids the pollinators from going down and being captured as prey, but being able to pollinate that carnivorous plant. Another way that the carnivorous plants get pollinated and avoid capturing their prey is the timing of when they put out their flowers. A lot of times the flowers are put out in early April to June, and the traps actually don't become active until later in the year. A lot of the flowers of the carnivorous plants have pollen and delicious nectar for the pollinators, and the traps actually put out a different odor and have very vibrant colors. So the differences in the colors of the traps versus the colors in the pollinators attract different insects. Pollinators for carnivorous plants, the majority of pollinators include bees. They love bright flowers, really colorful flowers, sweet nectars, versus the differences in prey, which may be ants, spiders, little beetles that are low laying and crawling on the ground versus flying around like bees. One of the most unique carnivorous plants, well known, are Venus flytraps. Venus flytraps are found about 90 miles outside of Wilmington, North Carolina, across the southeast coastal plain of North Carolina and the northeast corner of South Carolina. Now, these plants are endemic to this region, endemic meaning you can only find them here in this habitat. They love wet soils, boggy areas, wetlands, and really thrive in open canopy forests, particularly longleaf forests. So I'm standing here in a field, in a savanna of Venus flytraps. Maybe you guys have seen them before on TV or on the internet. They may look really big in those scenarios, but in reality, they're actually very tiny, tiny little plants. So we're gonna show you what they look like in their natural habitat. So here you guys can see there's a ton of Venus flytraps. If you guys are out hiking and about, you might miss them. They come in sort of a range of colors from light green to having very dark red traps. And you guys might even see these burn traps right here. So there's actually a bulb underneath the plant that keeps the plant alive when a slow rolling fire comes throughout the landscape. These plants, as I said, thrive in really open areas. So an open savanna like where we're standing allows a lot of sunlight to hit these plants. There's little trigger hairs inside the plant. And when a bug crawls in there, it takes a bit for the Venus flytraps to recognize that a little prey is crawling around. And once about 3 trigger hairs are moved and triggered, the trap will actually close up on that prey and keep it in there and digest it. So that's how they get their nutrients, which is pretty amazing. They are actually meat-eating plants. Whenever early May to June comes, these Venus flytraps put out their flowers. So the flower stalk is actually about this high. It's a beautiful little white flower that the Venus flytrap shoots out. And if you're out walking about in May to June, you'll be able to see a field of these flowers. It is a gorgeous sight. But that spatial difference of the flower and the trap actually aids in the Venus flytrap avoiding that pollinator prey conflict. So they're able to get pollinated, but able to get fed at the same time.
Another type of carnivorous plant we have here are pitcher plants. And so here we have some yellow pitcher plants. So they're tall. It's a little early in the season, so they haven't put up their new traps yet. So these are last year's. They die in the winter and turn brown. But what we have here is the new flower stalk for this year. So this will bloom eventually, maybe in a few weeks. And one of the neat things about pitcher plants is they have several different species, and they all bloom pretty close together, and so you can get hybrids. So over here, we have a purple pitcher plant. They're usually lower to the ground, and they don't have the hoods like the yellow pitcher plants, and so they're filled with water. I'm not sure if you can see that in there, but bugs will fall into there. And there's enzymes in that water that break them down. We also have some of the flowers from last year on this pitcher plant. So there's a lot of important things that carnivorous plants need. They need pollinators for one thing, but they also need good habitat. As you can see behind me here, there's not much mid-story, and that's because prescribed fire is a super important part of carnivorous plant habitat. It kind of takes out all the shrub and things that can shade them out, because a lot of these plants are pretty small. So if you don't burn and all the shrubs come back, they're not going to be very healthy.
Thanks for tagging along with Zach and I here at the Green Swamp Preserve. This is a great example of what a healthy longleaf pine forest looks like. It's been burned and managed for several years. So if you guys are looking to see some carnivorous plants in their natural habitat, Green Swamp Preserve is a perfect place for you guys. It's in Brunswick County, located off Highway 211. Not only can you find carnivorous plants here, you can also find tons of wildflowers, lots of orchids, and a variety of really rare and unique plants that are home to the Southeast Coastal Plain. So I hope you guys enjoy. Bye.